why is it that... Right, let's consider this as a Rolex Daytona, right? Let's consider it, because it's just a good all-rounder.
Yeah.
Why is it taking all of the internals and the movement and everything out of the Daytona, which is the equivalent of taking the engine out of this, completely reworking it and augmenting it? Like, this is as iconic. The classic 911 shape is as signature iconic in its world as the Daytona is in its world.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it still considered sacrilege to do
the watch industry and the watch industry in general is...
Started. Huh? This is kind of, well, when I say kind of, this is exactly where my day started, because our house is up here. The thing that we were speaking about earlier, where we just sort of roll with it and see how it goes, it just so happens that there is a supercar event up here, and it also just so happens that our villa is up here, which means after the event, we just go straight home. It's highly convenient. Yeah, there's some Jurassic Park action up there. Look at that up there, bro.
Is there a housing development up here?
There's plots all over here. So we're in a preserve, which as the name would suggest is I think this is actually a 20,000 acre estate, which is split up into multiple plots and branches. Mm-hmm. No, really?
No,
yeah?
I'm not.
Yeah, it's a 20,000 acre estate. There's plots and ranches. Clint Eastwood has a ranch.
I 100% believe you.
Right? And,
this is essentially the drive to it.
Yeah, and there's a drive to it.
And it's like a mountain road.
Mountain pass driveway, yeah.
Just to get to
the
house.
Houses. Yeah. And up here is a sort of invite only, which is why I kind of like the Uncut channel, because we can bring you along for this invite only event. And check out the car culture that takes place after the events have ended. Then people sort of spring up and open their doors to their villas that they've rented, or in this case own, and end up embracing all of the people in the area who wish to continue the momentum of having a load of hypercars in town. Another way of describing this would be a supercar mountain party. I mean, where are we heading? Into some, the depths of the valley. Look how beautiful this is. Wow.
Look at this.
That's hilarious. There's two wine police centers have just arrived at the same time. He's blasting off down there, and there's another one there. Not many environments where you must feel a little bit disgruntled that there's someone with the same spec center as you. Amazing. Hey. How you doing? How you doing, man? You guys good, man? How's things?
Fantastic, familiar face.
Yeah, man.
This guy.
This is the security guard that came out to the house at 2 in the morning this morning, because we arrived there in the middle of the night, and he was like, "Who are these guys?" Hey, I've not seen any pumas yet.
You didn't see the puma?
Not yet, buddy.
He was looking at you.
I was looking at me through the phones. Good to see you, man. Yeah, it was funny.
Film me in those pumas. Puma.
Security guard knocks on two minutes later. He's like, "Listen, whatever you do, just don't go out at night, particularly on the edge of the woods, because there's pumas."
How crazy is this, mate? How long was the drive? I kept saying to James, I was like, is this a driveway? It's 6 miles long. How insane is this? It's absolutely nuts. It's absolutely nuts, man. I was just like... And then the bit where we went to Jurassic Park. Yeah. We were like, da 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 da. So James, I heard you talking about your
parking spot.
You might be a Lamborghini guy now.
I feel the need for a Lamborghini.
Yes, me too. Did you see our security guy?
Yes, I
The
did.
Puma
yeah, I
security
said
guy.
to him, I said, man, I've not seen any Pumas yet. You know? I think he was having us on. I think he's having us on, man. And the second thing he says to me is like, and you got to watch out for the rattlesnakes. But I was speaking to Damon this morning. He was like, no, you do have to watch out for the rattlesnakes. I was like, okay. No expeditions in the woods. I'm just checking, Nico. Has that got big enough exhaust for you? What do you think? Huh? I mean, that's absolutely ludicrous.
That is insane. That's just insane.
I can't take that seriously. Come on.
That's what it takes.
Yeah.
Separate from the ordinary.
Look at the size of it.
Holy
Oh, ridiculous. Yeah, check out this. There is a unique configuration of exhaust taking place on this lineup. Look at this side.
as well.
It's absolutely back. Oh, it's a rift kit. Oh, but that sounds ridiculous. Right, just before we head in, Yorkie, we got to take a look at these. There's some. If I was to spec a 918 or get into a 918, it would be an all black one like this. That is supreme. Got a roof there. Got an orange LFA here. 63 edition SVJ. Black 991 Gen 2 GT3 RS Wyzak, no less. Proper machinery, and it's all to the backdrop of this situation. Very, very special.
Absolutely love Senna.
So this is it right here. Nice, it's a full spec. I love the accenting on the edge of the seat. That's cool.
And you know what? The steering wheel's on the right side.
Really good. Well,
Correct side.
there is that.
There's that as well, you know. Like, memories in this car, mate. I remember asking Adam, how the hell do you start this thing? And then I had to drive it for 12 hours.
It's not even obvious how to get out of it because the door handles are on the roof.
Aye.
You know, it's properly interesting stuff.
Literally, mate.
Look at this,
within,
this highlighting here is
fuel
cool.
stops within,
I don't know if this has been done by MSO. No, it's a wrap. That's a wrap and that's a wrap. But if you wanted this done by MSO,
after about fuel
this would
stop
be
6,
yeah,
I was like, guys,
punchy
sorry.
option to
Fuel
leave
stop.
it. Is this
Wait, check this out. This is just
right? Where's the food at? I just want to go towards. That looks like
follow the smoke.
Follow the smoke. That's where I need to be. That's pretty. I mean, look, they got the. That's the super rapid Lucid.
Let's go look at it.
This is the Sapphire, I think. This is the one that's just super. I think like 1200 horsepower.
You know,
I'm a massive advocate of electric cars, but there's something of the design language on this really appeals to me. The front of it just looks pretty mean, you know?
it looks like this is a cracker, mate.
Yeah, I think it's quite cool.
It looks like an
Good.
absolute.
I've not seen any in the UK yet. We asked someone at the door from Lucid if there was any available in the UK.
She said, like,
And she was like, I think there's been 3 ordered or something like that. I'm sure that there's more than that coming, but I'd like to try one. It'd be brilliant. But right now it's very California. I don't know. We don't have a Lucid dealership or anything yet. That situation is very cool. There's a matching Singer and a Carrera GT here. That's pretty solid. That is pretty solid.
let's get in it.
Let's get in the mix.
No, I mean, let's get in the mix.
These aftermarkets are interesting on this. That it actually suits it. But I think because the Carrera GT wheels are so iconic, I'd probably just leave them.
Oh, look, it's got matching interior.
It does have matching interior. Look. Same. These are beautiful things, but when you spend time around the Gunther works, it just looks like a well-restored 964. Like it's really nice, and I think they were ahead of the curve when they did their thing. But now
Gunther
just,
works all day, every day, man.
every day, right?
It's a
But
joke.
now they just look like a polished 964.
They look like which they are, an older car, but they look, it's just, that's it.
It's just a nice Porsche.
It's a nice Porsche.
Yeah. Whereas Gunther's another
Yeah.
totally different stratosphere, isn't it?
It's funny actually how accepted restorations and aftermarket and resto mods is accepted in the car industry in comparison to the watch industry.
And the watch industry is like sacrilege.
Oh,
It's like the worst.
I do think we need to tone that down a wee bit, bar aftermarket diamonds, because that's a disgrace. Sorry, no bad language. That's a disgrace, right?
Just means work.
Yeah.
Why is it that... Right, let's consider this as a Rolex Daytona.
Yeah.
Right? Let's consider it, because it's just a good all-rounder.
Yeah.
Why is it taking all of the internals and the movement and everything out of the Daytona, which is the equivalent of taking the engine out of this, completely reworking it and augmenting it. Like, this is as iconic. The classic 911 shape is as signature iconic in its world as the Daytona is in its world. Why is it still considered sacrilege to do
the watch
any
industry
form
and
of
the watch
augmentation?
industry in general is years behind the car industry, right? And restoring watches, I think restoring watches is very important. I think if you have a correct approach by restoring, for example, a vintage Daytona, I think that this is only benefit everyone and the future of the watch industry, because if you don't restore that specific watch in the right way, that watch will be gone forever, right? So I think it's very, very important, but it's not being accepted. And the reason why it's not being accepted today is because we are so far behind. The watch industry is so far behind the car industry, and this will change. I'm confident about that. In the next 20 years, that will be more accepted, right?
Yeah.
And it will become more mainstream. But the way the car industry approaches passion, approaches resto mods, and the passion that lives there, like, I mean, that is something unique, and that is something that will take time in the watch industry. Yeah, I would love to see that.
Yeah,
you know,
that'd be very cool.
not customization of its own. I think certain pieces are from a historical value. You shouldn't.
Sure.
You can restore it, but you need to bring it exactly back to that part, right? Historical pieces that are extremely rare, 2499s. But these are perpetual.
So interestingly, this 2.7 RS,
Yeah.
this would be considered a Paul Newman Daytona.
Yeah.
Right? And interestingly, you're right, these rarely get heavily augmented. They'll get very well restored. I mean, this, like, they're not original seats, right? So they'll do a facelift on it and a refresh.
Yeah.
Whereas this, the only thing this shares with what this was is the body shell. Everything, and even that isn't original. It's more flared arches. There's way less panel gaps. That is not.
This is a very modern. This is a very vintage inspired font.
So yeah, it's really interesting. But I'm seeing it evolve, and I mean, Zagato, very famous, steeped in history automotive design house, did their interpretation of a Carrera GT. That is a holy grail car, right? And they still were like, you know what? We're gonna have a go.
Yeah.
I mean, the audacity, right? It didn't go down well, as it happens.
Now, and that is very similar in the watch industry, right? Trying to have a modern interpretation or a different interpretation of a Daytona, like, for example, what we talked about earlier this week, where stripping down the movement, skeletonize it, and put a strap on it and sell this as a Daytona. It's not a Daytona, it's not a Rolex, nothing in there has got any Rolex DNA, right? Where I think with certain cars, it is still a Porsche and it still has its DNA, right? And although it is restored, it still has that DNA. Where with a lot of, like, I call the Artisan de Genève, I love their approach, because I think that what they're actually delivering is quality. But at other companies I've seen that do similar, we've seen it ourselves. Chinese parts, horrendous. Like, and that is like
value stripping nastiness.
It's horrendous. But for me, it is about passion, right? And I think that everyone should always have the freedom to do what they love. But I think we all have the responsibility to keep a specific watches for our next generation, including a 2499, including a 63.9. Like 63.9s are very important. It's the first gen of the Daytona that we know now, that we know today, 1963. Like, I mean, that is just important for the future, right? And for the next generation. And this is based on passion, on love. And I would love to have that approach as well.
Well, what's interesting about this is it's also based on improvement, and that's subjective. However, if you drove a standard 964 and you drove this, you'd be like, this feels like alien space technology compared to what a traditional 964 is like. Like, that is celebrated, I mean, beyond. An original 2.7 RS, holy grail stuff, drives a bit rubbish, right? And that's being polite. That would run rings around that thing. You know, it's a really interesting technique.
The thing is, with watches, it's more difficult because the timekeeping devices are not really there. You can't improve them, right? And the level of thrill, the thrill level and the level of expertise, the thrill level and the level of ownership joy
is completely different than with a car. With a car, you can do exciting things, and you can drive, and there's adrenaline. With a watch, it is not the case. And although it's two subjects that fits extremely well together and goes hand in hand, I'm jealous sometimes at the car industry and cars in general that there's so much excitement there. And that's maybe one of the reasons why I wanted to do more with cars, because it just makes my blood pump faster.
Yeah. How you guys doing? Good. Yeah, we are currently drawing parallels in the resto mod world between watches and cars, because we were just over there.
You're not the right person.
Okay, sorry.
I know he's not the right person. Take it off.
Wow, what's going on?
Take it off.
It's all good. It's all good.
That's really bad.
But we were just saying, like, it seems to be accepted that Singer can take a 964 or Gunther Works can take a 993 and subjectively make it better. But if you were to take a Daytona and recase it, change the profile of it, new engine, new internals, it'd be valueless.
Yeah.
It's really funny.
That's
strange.
That's
really strange.
I think it's also the way it's been brought into the way the message is delivered, the way the watch is delivered towards purists, right? A lot of Porsche purists, there's a question, I would guess, are not happy with resto mods. Is that correct?
Most Porsche purists seem to hang on every word of Gunther Works and Singer. They just love it.
And this shows how far behind
It's evolved.
the watch industry is, or how far.
When I say that, I need to asterisk that. When I say purist, if you're the sort of person to park a 2.7 RS on the lawn of a Concours show to get it as period correct as possible, potentially not, right? Potentially not.
The term period correct is vital in the watch industry as well, by the way. Dal Hans. Period correct is something that is so important for people, which I love, which I enjoy, because that's also part of the journey of owning a watch, right? Certain models, certain watches just requires money, right?
Yeah.
But the cool thing is the journey of finding that piece, right? It's like, and that's what I love with vintage and period correct, and like that's a term that's really being used, but it's also a term that's being abused in every way possible, because of course in every industry, and I'm wondering how that is in the car industry, but in the watch industry, as long like when there's money involved, there's fraud involved, and there's a lot of fake hands, fake dials, and it just blows my mind. How is that in the car industry?
Less so than the watch industry. It's there, but it's easier to travel with and get out of a watch.
Yeah, but
much easier, right?
Yeah.
More difficult. I mean, we also don't get fakes in our industry.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a fake car.
You get poor work and just bad interpretations of things, but you don't get fakes, right? But fraud normally takes place on the sort of transaction side rather than the actual fundamental platforms. I mean, we are aware of a platform lately that's just screwed someone out of 5 million quid, right? Sometimes get that, but thankfully the car world by and large isn't too bad. It's not as rife as the watch world.
I would love genuinely for my industry, for the watch industry, to accept restoration significantly more, but talk about it, make it a subject. To give you an idea, there was a few years ago, the unicorn was sold, right? The only white gold Daytona. It was a fraud, right? It was a bloody fraud. That watch was just all made up, which is ridiculous, right? But if they actually approach that auction differently and saying, we found this watch and we've restored this to a specific condition, it would have been for me. It would have been acceptable. But the difference is the auction price would probably have gone significantly lower, and that
But it would have been real.
It would have been real.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Like we're talking about the most important outlays, really reputable auction houses, really reputable people that have a lot of responsibilities that actually just ignored that and were scared to talk about restoration. They should have always talked about, from the start, restoration. There's nothing wrong with that, because it's only preserving something for the next generation, which I think is vitally important.
I mean, if we were stood here 20 years ago and someone said, get a Lamborghini Diablo as a donor car and we're going to do that to it wouldn't have been accepted. It wouldn't have been accepted. But now this is an accepted, not only is it accepted, it's celebrated.
Yeah, it's celebrated a lot.
It's very, very special.
But this is restoring a design and emotion from many years ago.
Yeah.
but then a modern interpretation.
This is a whole different level though. Like if you were to put a Diablo side by side with this, they'd be like worlds apart. But I remember when you guys launched this online, the celebration of the fact that someone's doing it, right? It wasn't like sacrilege. You should keep it how it is. It was, that's an amazing thing, and congratulations for doing it, right?
Look at this.
Huh?
The lights, man.
Stop showing off, will you?
It's amazing. I mean,
You know what? It's amazing.
Come on,
It's amazing.
Come on, it's amazing. Actually, the designer of the car, the 964, is the same. The 928, sorry, is the same designer of this one. In fact, as you can see, the line and the body style is kind of the same because it's aggressive, but it's also classy in the same way, as you can see with the line of this one, but also that portion.
I call it like future retro.
It's future retro. It's a new standard because, I mean, if you think there are so many cars that you can possibly use the technology of today to emphasize the emotion of like before when the cars went out. For instance, like an E30 M3. Can you imagine like E30 M3 with carbon, with the new engine would be so mega. And this is just one because there are so many cars, and I love the fact that the car community wants to like express themselves with a car that they dream about, and after like 20 years they made it better.
They can do it.
They can do it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's gone dark now. Basically, when it goes dark, we just call it a day.
Yeah, done.
So that's the end of another entirely random day. Don't trip over that, Yorkie. An entirely random day.
Why does these lights on?
Monterey Car Week. I can't see my key. There we are. There it is. Basically, the second half of this day was entirely unplanned, and I think it worked out quite well.
Oh, here,
So,
switch them up.
I'm trying. My lights don't stay on that long.
I'm just looking at 4 lights and stuff.
Cut.
Good night.